Hey now, what's going on everybody? My name is Mike Brown, aka ReviewKingMB, and I have a bit of a confession to make. This is my very first time watching Rocky, which as you can see I have one of the collections. It just has Rocky 1 through 4, and yes, I know. A million people are going to comment and say, well, I wish it was going to be that many, but a lot of people are going to comment and say, how is this possible? How did you go all of your life without ever watching Rocky? And I can't really explain it. Growing up, Rocky was always a movie that you hear about, that people tell me how great it is. I can't count how many times I've seen it parodied, or just there's so many things about Rocky that I knew, I just never sat down and watched it. But now I finally have. Rocky is a 1976 film that was written by Sylvester Stallone, which is something that I think it's easy to forget. But just that alone, before I get into his acting, before I get into his performance, and just what I thought of this whole movie, the fact that he wrote this movie is impressive enough. The plot is we meet Rocky, who is sort of a small-time fighter. You see him fighting for like chump change. He's struggling until he kind of gets a lucky break, because Apollo Creed is this big-time heavyweight fighter who his opponent got injured, so he now needs an opponent. And he's willing to give a shot to a rookie, to the local boxer, to create this big story and hype around this fight. And it works because he picks Rocky. Now, what I think of this movie is this movie's pretty freaking awesome. It's pretty great. I don't even know what I was expecting. Maybe there was a part of me that, this was so hyped up for years and years. Everybody's saying that it was a classic and it's this and it's that maybe I was afraid that I would sit down and watch it, and maybe I'd think, well, it's 1976. It's since I didn't grow up with it, I might have a disconnect. I might not get into it. No, I was into this movie from the very beginning. Seeing this character, Rocky, who, like I said, he's fighting for chump change. When you see he wins a fight at the very beginning of the movie, it only gets at the end of expenses and everything like $40 for winning. And he's only able to fight like every couple of weeks. So I mean, talking about struggling, you see where he lives and his neighborhood, just the scenes of him walking the streets and interacting with all of the random characters, especially the one scene where he sees like this 14-year-old girl out there with them, and he takes her and he's grabbing her, and he's like, what are you doing, dealing out here with these bad guys? You know what you're gonna get hanging out with them? People are gonna think you're a whore. You know that? Let me tell you something. And of course she doesn't take the advice anyways, but still, that just kind of tells you what type of guy Rocky is. Also, you see his interaction with somebody at the gym who kind of ends up being his trainer or his manager, his character Mickey, who the reason why he is so hostile to Rocky, why he is so down on him, is because he knows how good he can be, how good he could have been. But he's kind of, I don't know if you want to say Rocky was a slacker, but he wasn't going at his fullest potential. He wasn't as big as he should have been. So I think he was just sick of watching Rocky walk around this gym, not really putting his all. I liked when he sort of sucked it up and went up to Rocky and said, hey, let me be your manager. And Rocky was very against it. He was at first, and then he came around. Also, Sylvester Stallone's performance, I haven't been like the biggest Sylvester Stallone fan, and it's mostly because I haven't watched a lot of his old movies. This was great. This is definitely the best performance I've ever seen him give. He was emotional when he had to be. You buy him as this guy. Adrian, because one of his best friends, Paulie, at first he wants him to date his sister. He's like, my sister doesn't get out of the house. She's kind of weird. People think she's retarded. Bring her to the zoo. I hear retarded people like zoos. So messed up. And so he wants Rocky to date her, but then when Rocky starts dating her, brings her to the ice rink after it's closed on Thanksgiving for $10 for 10 minutes. He tried. And she starts to like him. It actually works, and they end up being a great couple. And of course, Paulie's like, oh, he's pissed now. He's pissed because they ended up working out. That wasn't, I guess, part of the plan. I should talk about Apollo Creed. Carl Weathers plays Apollo Creed. And I like this character because you could have played him up as this really arrogant asshole type of fighter. He's the heavyweight champion of the world. He's on top of the world. He could be the biggest douchebag ever. And I'm not saying he's the most stand-up guy. You could tell that he's arranging this underdog fighter for him to go against to create a buzz and make it a better story just for him. But still, he's viable. He's believable. You understand where he's coming from. I like the arrogance because it makes him seem just like a cool guy. Also, some of the more iconic moments, images, I can just tell from watching the movie, is his training. The scenes where he wakes up early in the morning, drinking the cup of eggs, running, jogging through the streets, and then the montage of the music playing and him, jumping up and down because he's actually in the groove, he's in the moment. It was almost hard for me to take that seriously just because I've seen it parodied and spoofed so many times that I was sort of laughing during it. And then that brings us to the fight because I like the way this was. You could have gone the cliched route, which I'm not sure it was too much of a cliche at the time, but you could have gone the route of where Rocky just wins because he's the underdog, he's the main character, he's the guy going up against the odds, and maybe that would be a feel-good story just in and of itself. But the fact that, no, it's more about him surviving this fight, him lasting these rounds with Apollo and taking the fight to him and giving him a fight that he clearly wasn't prepared for, wasn't expecting this from Rocky. And the two of them just both battered, bruised, beaten, bloodied. That's what I like more. Showing that Rocky can hang with the world champion and that he is at that level if he wants to be, when he wants to be. I think that was a much better ending, at least for me. So all in all, what more can I say about Rocky? I'm pretty glad now that I've watched this movie because I enjoyed it as much as I did. So guys, let me know in the comments below, what do you think of Rocky? Do you like it? Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. Later!